Hello, my name is Robert Dean Steele, and this is your daily Bible class. Listen to this parable. It's about the master and the servant. It is found in Luke chapter 17, verses 17 to 10. Jesus says, suppose one of you had a servant plowing or looking after the sheep. Would you say to the servant when he comes in from the field, come now, sit down and eat? Would he not rather say, prepare my supper, get yourself ready, and wait on me while I weed, and after you may eat and drink? Would he thank the servant because he was told what to do? Also, when you have done everything you were told to do, should you say, we are unworthy servants, and we have only done our duty? Now, Jesus was giving a wonderful illustration of servanthood. He said, there was a man who had a servant, and the servant was looking after the sheep, and the servant comes into the field, and so the man comes up to him and says, you know what? Why don't you come down and eat with me? Now, us today living in the Canadian society would say, well, that's how you need to do it. But in the ancient world, that's not how it was. And this illustration is more along the lines of obedience and doing what the master tells us to do. That's what Jesus was getting across. He said, no, the man would come in, master would say, prepare me supper. And then the master would eat his supper. And then afterwards, the man would have his own supper. And then would the servant expect the master to say, well, you are truly a wonderful servant? Well, most of us say, well, that would be the courteous thing to do. But you say, we are unworthy servants. We've only done our duty. What Jesus is getting across in this particular illustration, this particular parable, is that when you're called to be a servant of Christ, you do what the master asks you to do. Now, the Lord is going to give you accolades. He is going to give you rewards. But don't look for rewards or accolades in this life. In fact, Jesus warns against that. He says, if you get the praise of men, if you get the glory of men, then don't expect something from the Father in heaven. You see, we do things that are unseen. We're just simply servants of the living Christ. What we do here right now does matter, and God will reward us in this life and the next. But we need to understand something. We are to obey and pray. One time, Youngie Cho was asked how he got this great big huge church that he had. He said, I prayed and I obeyed. You see, the Lord expects us to be like the centurion. The centurion was a perfect illustration. The centurion asked Jesus to come and heal his servant. Jesus was on his way there. When the centurion said this, he says, just say the word and my servant will be healed. He says, you see, I'm a master. I'm a man who works by orders. He says, when I'm told to do something, I do it. He says, no complications, no arguing, I just do what I'm told. And Jesus said, I have never seen such faith in all Israel. You see, that man understood that the Lord works a simple way. He says, do it, and we're supposed to do it. It's called obedience. It's called trust. Do you trust God enough to do what he asks you to do without asking why? That's real faith. And faith is a wonderful trust issue. I remember the story of Blast from the Past with Brendan Fraser and Christopher Walken. And they were about a family that was raised up in a bunker in the 1960s. And then they found themselves coming out in the 1990s. And one of the values that they were trying to bring through this movie was the son said, Dad, I want you to stay in the bunker for a little bit longer. He said, why? He says, I'm asking you to trust me without asking why. He said, okay, son. And that was a wonderful illustration of how our Christian life should be. We should trust God enough that when he asks us to do something, we say, yes, sir. Because the simple fact is that we know God has the best interest in our best interest at heart. That's what Jesus was trying to get across here. He says, listen, As a servant, you trust your master. You know your master has the best thing at heart for you. And you know that your master is going to take care of you. He's going to have your best interests at heart. And that's what we need to do. We need to pray, and then we obey. Andrew Murray put it this way: we're in the school of obedience. And in the school of obedience, you just trust the one who asks you to do this. You say, yes, I'll do it, and I'll do it willingly, I'll do it joyfully, and I'll do it for the glory and praise of God. That's what Jesus was getting across with this particular parable. My name is Robert Dean Steele. This is your daily Bible class, and you have yourself a great and godly day.